Alrighty, I'm making a small video just because some people expressed that they would like some help, and the first thing I've got to say is you have to call the shelters first. You cannot show up to the shelter with a cat. They will turn you away. You have to call and you have to make sure you know the times where you can bring in cats and what their procedures are. I would actually call multiple shelters too, because the first shelter we started going to, they would only allow trapping 2 days out of the week, and on those 2 days is only like a 3-hour time slot. And honestly, it was impossible to go through that. So now we go to a different place, and we do actually have to pay for their procedures, but it's like $45, so it's not too bad. But they allow trapping, you can book a whole week for trapping. And it's I think 7 hours within the day where you can bring them in. So it's actually really, really awesome. And yeah, so you have to call first. Make sure they do TNR, and when you're asking about TNR, ask if they notch ears. I would have your cat's ears notched. Basically what notching is they clip either the very top off of one of the ears, or they make a triangle slit in one of the ears, and it basically shows that this cat cannot reproduce. So if you do have a big problem, you have multiple cats that need to get in, it's easier to keep track of, especially if you have a bunch of cats that are near the same color, or just so that people in the area know, hey, this cat really can't even do, it can't do anything. Yeah, it wanders around, but it's not going to cause an explosion of more cats. The second thing I guess I would say is, you see me looking at the screen just looking at these two cages. So this is actually probably one of the most important things I'm going to get into. When you're gonna trap cats, do not go with a big cage. We actually got the big cage from the old shelter we used to go to, and let me tell you, it's probably the worst thing you can do. So let's look at him again this way. So the small cage is actually meant for cats. It's meant to catch cats, in specific. And the reason why it's so small is because only a cat can squish in there, and they can't fumble around and freak out and hurt themselves. In this large cage, they can severely hurt themselves. They can fling themselves. They can, I gotta tell you, we've had cats break their noses, and they just bleed profusely. It's not something you want to see, and you don't want them to get hurt. So you're gonna want to go with this little cage. I think we got the little cage from Menards. I think it was around $60. But otherwise, you can go through the shelter with cages. I would just ask what kind of cage they have and if you could see it and how big they are. I wonder if I could get a ruler out. I'll do that in a second video probably. But that's the one thing. And so now you're wondering, well then how do I get the cat in the cage? Okay, so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to set up a feeding schedule. You're going to need him to come at a specific time every single day to eat food. And you're going to want the cage out. You're going to want the cage out there with them. Don't have it set, but just have it out, just so that they can see it and it becomes normal. You want them to get used to the cages. You don't want them to be freaked out by the cages. It's just another thing that's there. And when you do decide that you're going to trap, when it comes to food, you're going to want something that makes them sit there and have to eat it for a while. Hi, Milton. Oh, here's a good view of the ear notching. Hey, Milton, look up. If I can get him to look. But one of his ears, the tip is actually notched off. But so anyway, when it comes to food, you're gonna want something like wet cat food mixed with dry, so that they actually have to sit in the cage and eat. You have to make them sit there. They have to sit there and they have to eat. Even though the cage is small, some cats will still get in there, grab something, and back out very slowly and run away. You don't want that to happen. So you're going to want something wet and sticky, and the reason why you put dry in there is because it makes them kind of fish it out and crunch and eat in there, and they end up stepping on the flap and tripping the cage and it closes. But I think, when it comes to the food, yeah, but I think the biggest way on getting a cat into a cage is covering the cage with a blanket. You can get these little nice fleece blankets at Walmart for $2 to $5, and you wrap them around the cage, obviously leaving this open so they can see. because we've had cats where if it's not covered, they actually go to the back of the cage and they sit there and they try to put their paws in there and like get at the food and they meow, and they don't actually figure out to go like to the front and go in. So that's probably the best thing you could do, is to cover it. And then you also got to think, like, cats like small places where they can hide, like boxes. So it's like a box but with food in it. So then they go in. But yeah, I think that's mainly what I have to cover for right now. If you have any questions, just ask in the comments. Thank you.